Comments made on the following paid commercial program are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time.
Welcome to the Money and Wealth Show. On this week's program, a tax tip from David Ingram, money commercials, and we look at small and medium-sized businesses and personal survival strategies with our special guest, Dr. Lindsay Meredith. Welcome to the Money and Wealth Show. I'm Sterling Fox, and our special guest this week is from the marketing area in the School of Business at Simon Fraser University. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Lindsay Meredith to the Money and Wealth Show. Good to have you with us.
Sterling, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks, Lindsay. We haven't talked for a while, and we've got a lot to talk about today, beginning with small and medium businesses here in British Columbia, the backbone of any economy. In this fall of 2010, how are we doing?
Well, we're in the hopeful world of recovery, especially in Canada. I see some good signs. I see things beginning to look up. Is it all slam dunk? Not by a long shot, my friend. We're coming out of the worst recession probably since the 30s. Is this thing fragile? You betcha. And it's especially fragile for small and medium business.
Now, it's also the biggest single quarter of the year for businesses in the retail sector. Christmas 2010 is still a big question mark for a lot of business people in our province. What are their prospects, you figure, for this year?
Well, hopefully we see some strength now in consumer behavior that looks, from the marketing standpoint, I'd say it's starting to slope the right direction, upwards. Again, is it fragile yet? Oh yeah, you betcha it is. Remember, even in some good times, there are small, medium-sized firms out there, and even the odd big one has to make it in this pre-Christmas run-up.
Definitely.
If they don't, they lose their shirt. Some of them go extinct, by the way. This year especially so. So, a lot of these guys are sweating bullets big time.
Now, marketing is your area of expertise, and marketing, the advertising, the promotion of one's product or service is key to success. And yet, in these troubling economic times, Lindsay, a lot of retailers have seen fit to reduce their expenses on marketing. It's deemed a disposable area. That's probably not a wise strategy, is it?
It's interesting. You've raised a hot point here. It turns out that when we look at statistical performance over a wide number of firms, big and little, the guys who do the best are the guys who actually keep marketing and advertising actively even in downturns. They do better throughout the downturn, and they do better on the upturn when things recover as well. It's a natural instinct that a lot of small business guys have to fight, and that is, gosh, I'm tight on cash.
Yeah.
I've got to cut back.
Right.
Hey, I understand that. It's fair enough. It's easy for me to sit here and say, no, wrong decision. Hey, you're talking about some guy who's betting the family cat on everything, trying to make it last.
Sure.
So, for him to pull back is a strong desire, and sometimes that's the absolute worst thing you can do. What's your solution? Start looking for other ways you can still communicate with those local markets. That means local advertising in your local area newspapers. It means delivering flyers, basically of stuff as simple as going through front doors. Are you going to go national advertising, national radio, stuff like that? No, of course not. That doesn't mean to say you shouldn't keep trying to communicate with your customers. They forget your name, you're dead.
Well, that's right. If they don't know you're there offering your product or your service, how on earth can they ever come into your store and have a look?
That's the real problem. And again, you're right on the money. If they won't cross the threshold, I guess we've got a pretty simple solution, haven't we? You haven't sold a thing that day.
Right.
But you know what? The banker hasn't gone away. Mortgage is still there, so's the rent, so's the heat, so's the light. That means your fixed cost is eating you alive inch by inch.
Now, you pay a lot of attention to statistics and consumer trends. Around the middle of the month, we saw yet another indicator of diminishing confidence in American consumers.
Yeah.
How do we Canadian consumers stack up against our cousins next door?
Collectively in Canada, we managed to duck a very large bullet by and large. Look, were there sectors that suffered big time? Of course there were. Ontario, classic example. Quebec. British Columbia, we basically walked away with the prize. We got winged all right, but we didn't take near the beating everybody else took.
Right.
Lord forgive the beating that the Americans are taking. That is tragic.
How about the HST? There's been we've spent a fair bit of time on this program over the summer of 2010 talking about the HST with pro and con advocates.
Yeah.
But now that we've had a chance to live with it for a few months,
Yeah.
is there any discernible impact on the economy?
Well, I guess my main quarrel with the HST was much more along the lines of timing. If you're going to move a big tax directly into that consumer sector, that's going to hurt consumer demand. You hurt consumer demand, you really hurt small and medium-sized business.
Sure.
The timing was the problem. Worst recession almost ever. And what do? In a lot of cases, it looks like a 12% hit kind of drops in out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of stuff that scares the hell out of consumers. You don't want to do that, not on a recovery. Could you do it when times are strong? Sure you could. But timing has a lot to do with everything.
Right, and of course it compounded in our province, unlike Ontario, where at least it was widely discussed. People knew it was coming. Here they kind of snuck it in the back door, made a lot of people angry, and so the bias against the tax was huge.
Yeah.
Weeks before it even became a reality.
Well, totally. Whoops, now the marketing hat has gone back on
Right.
here, Sterling. Look, the bottom issue became one of two hypotheses, as I explained this on a show quite a long time ago. Number one, you guys introduced a $2 billion tax transfer between business and consumers, and you did it with only 3 weeks' homework. In my world, that's called incompetent. Or B, you thought this stuff out way ahead. You had an idea where the horse was going. You just didn't bother to tell anybody what you were up to.
That's right.
Gee, now it sounds like you're a liar. You want either one of those on your resume? Mm-hmm. So what happens? Yes, you're right. You come out, now you're behind the 8 ball. You got a pile of really angry consumers. The only thing we're missing is the last piece that it arrived to was called Van der Zalm. That was the fuse on the keg of dynamite, and he lit it.
He certainly did, and right here on this program a couple of times, as a matter of
well,
fact.
bingo. So now what happens is you got a positioning problem, we call it in marketing. Positioning works like this. You position your own product. So in other words, I make you see my product the way I'd like you to see it. But there's something else goes along here too. A competitor will also position my product, and he'll make you see my product the way I don't want you to see it.
Sure.
Van der Zalm was a pro at positioning. He positioned Gordon Campbell and Liberals. Now they're trying to get out from under a very large rock. Why? They sat back and let him move first, and he's the guy who did it to him.
Right, and a skilled, if nothing else, political manipulator.
Totally.
A lot of years of experience under that belt. But on the matter of taxes, our finance minister announced a $55 billion deficit around the middle of this month. The American deficit is just silly. It's reasonable to assume that the only way governments are ever going to get out of this deficit hole is by raising our taxes. Not a popular political move, but inevitable as I see it. How about you?
Well, taxes are an interesting issue. I mean, now we're back to our talk of a few minutes ago. The analogy is a small business guy. He's suffering tough times, so he cuts back. Well, guess what? Once he cuts back and he loses track of his consumers, times get even tougher. Mm-hmm. So what does he do? He's bleeding even more. He cuts back again. What does that do? Drives even more customers away. He loses even more contact. Governments are kind of the same way. Now, let me be right up front here. You're talking to what we call a demand-side economist, okay? I'm a big, firm believer that the way big Western economies work is you have a good, strong, powerful middle class that's got cash, feels well off, and is prepared to spend it.
Sure.
That creates demand. That's how you get businesses to invest. That's how you get them to hire people, and around the wheel begins to go. So what do we get in this particular case? We get a government that says, we need taxes, because look at the size of the deficit we got, so let's smack a tax on them. Oh, hold it. Now you just made all those middle-class consumers feel even more worse off. What's their answer? Easy. Stuff your hands in your pocket. Don't spend a penny. Whoops. Even less tax revenue comes back to the government. Gee, isn't that called a self-fulfilling prophecy? We also call that a death spiral.
Our guest this week on the Money and Wealth Show, marketing professor Lindsay Meredith from Simon Fraser University. Lots more ahead. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc. Our project in Arizona is electrolytic manganese. We have a resource of 11 billion pounds. currently trading at $1.40 a pound. Our cost, 44 cents. For more information, go to our site at americanmanganeseinc.com or phone me direct at 604-531-9639.